It's time to put the good in your morning. You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Today, a candy catapult looks to keep kids safe this Halloween.
Oh, we got a mess on our hands. A little bit of everything from rain to freezing rain, even snow on this October Monday. The latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
The KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 starts right now.
Thanks for joining us on the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. I'm Tanya Bach. Authorities find two missing girls who were abducted from a Kansas home where two boys were discovered dead. Kansas Amber Alert System said the girls ages 3 and 7 were found by the Oklahoma Highway Patrol near Eric, Oklahoma around 7 Saturday evening. The Amber Alert said the suspect in the abduction is the girls' father, 40-year-old Donnie Jackson. Police say the boys were 11 and 14 and were the girls' siblings. No motive for the murders or abduction is clear at this time, but Jackson is in custody. An officer-involved shooting leaves a suspect dead in Montgomery County, Kansas. According to authorities, a victim called 911 after being robbed at gunpoint at the Regal Inn in Coffeyville around 1 p.m. About 15 minutes later in Independence, a trooper spotted a minivan that matched the vehicle connected to the robbery. As the troopers attempted a traffic stop, the vehicle's passenger, 32-year-old Wesley Jordan of Hot Springs, Arkansas, fired at the troopers. Trooper shot back and a police pursuit ensued. After a short chase, the suspect stopped and Jordan was shot by a trooper after exiting his van. Jordan died at the scene. No law enforcement officers were injured during the incident. The 26-year-old driver was arrested and is facing armed robbery charges. One teen is left dead and two others injured following a crash in McDonald County. Missouri Highway Patrol says the crash happened at 2 p.m. Saturday on a private property in Knoll. Authorities say a 15-year-old Knoll driver overturned a 2015 John Deere Gator utility vehicle after making a sharp turn at a high speed in a field. He and a 16-year-old passenger from Anderson were taken to Freeman Hospital of Neosho. His other passenger, who was just 15, also of Knoll, was killed in the crash. No names are being released at this time. Pittsburgh Police Department participated in National Prescription Drug Take-Back Day on Saturday. 4 staters could visit the Pittsburgh Law Enforcement Center to dispose of potentially dangerous, expired, or otherwise unwanted prescription drugs. The service was free of charge and people dropped off medications. They were allowed to stay anonymous. National Prescription Drug Take-Back Day is run and promoted by the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration. Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt says he will not appeal a court ruling that the state's tribal gaming compact automatically renewed on January 1st. Compacts defined how much gambling revenue tribes must pay to the state and which games. The governor argued they expired, however, a U.S. District Court judge ruled in July against him. Governor Stitt says he will not appeal that decision because the state faces, quote, unprecedented uncertainty as a result of the U.S. Supreme Court ruling a large swath of eastern Oklahoma remains an Indian reservation. As the Ray Atlanta's Children's Consignment event wrapped up its last day on Saturday, many consigners involved elected to donate their unsold items to local foster families. Out of 500 consigners, about 30% opted to donate, helping out families struggling during the pandemic. Unsold items are usually donated to local organizations, but after seeing a need in the community, foster families were able to sift through around 9,000 items for their foster kids free of charge. Items range from clothing, furniture, toys, and more.
Some of these foster families have been laid off or furloughed, so their income has been impacted significantly. So if it weren't for this, they would be very limited and have to rely on organizations that are really tapped out right now.
Sherry is hoping to continue with the foster donations each year. Second annual Shakespeare on the Steps at Northeastern Oklahoma University looked a little different this year due to COVID-19. Those in attendance wore masks and had to socially distance inside the Fine Arts Theater. NEO Theater Experience had 15 actors performing various Shakespeare scenes from his most famous plays. The students had 15 group rehearsals over a 3-week span to bring to life 75 different characters. And while performing, actors wore masks to follow COVID-19 protocol.
Actually, that kind of archives the experience a little bit. You know, we look back on it and we're like, that was the year that we wore masks to keep people safe. I think it's, you know, it's difficult that way, but I don't know, there's something unique and human about it.
This was the NEO Theater Experience's first show of the season. Desperate times call for desperate measures. Coronavirus calls for a candy catapult. The Mack family in York County is ready to launch into All Hallows Eve. The family wanted to make sure no matter what, kids in Springetberry Township in Pennsylvania could trick or treat. Vince Mack, the main engineer of the so-called Candy Pulse, says he knows kids have been through a lot this year, so he wanted to give them something to smile about. There we go. Take that, kids. Have your candy.
Oh, we've got an engineering department. We have to beat this. We got to do it, right? It's so cool. What we could do.
You tell our engineering department that they can come up with something like that, and you realize that they're going to say, okay, I bet we can get this candy to fly about, I don't know, half a mile. They'll come up with like hydraulics, and those guys are so smart and inventive that, yeah, they'd come up with something probably dangerous.
We'll get some of the best outfielders in the area. We'll set them up at the farm across the street, and we'll just let them go.
I'll launch it over the fence, see if Mookie Betts can bring it back. How about
Kids,
that?
come trick or treat.
Absolutely.
We're going to shoot our candy at half a mile away.
I tell you what, I'm jealous of this video
Serious
because it's
social
so
distance.
beautiful there in that neighborhood compared to what we're experiencing on this Monday, which is a wintry mix. We've got everything of snow up to the northwest. We've got the freezing rain, and we'll concentrate on that part, and then heavy rain that has now made its way through Joplin into southern southwest Missouri as well. This is the key factor right here, the purple. That's the freezing rain that we're seeing, because we have had reports of slick spots not only on Highway 69, but also I-49. I need you to be very wary of those bridges and overpasses as our winter weather advisory. Look at that expiration time. It lasts all the way into tomorrow morning. Now, there's a light mist coming down from the Freeman Health System sky camera in Joplin, but that's because it's been able to stay well above 32 degrees. Still very cold though, 37 with a wind chill of 30. 41's as high as we've seen in Miami, Grove, and Anderson, below the freezing mark in Yates Center, right at it in Iola. They've had light snow in Chanute as well. That sits at 33 degrees. For the bus stop forecast, don't worry about sunrise. Let's just make sure everybody's safe. And it's not only going to be extremely chilly when the kids take off for school, it's going to be extremely chilly when they come home as well. That's because our temperature is really just going to ride the 30s all throughout our Monday, and even some PM rain is going to persist. Give you an idea of what Future Track has. Key factor is on top of that rain, as it spreads into the southern portions, is going to be the freezing rain and the sleet that's indicated in pink. Even the light snow really shouldn't hamper travel as much as that freezing rain will, and you'll notice on our timeline there, it takes us all the way into Tuesday. Tuesday is going to be very cold as well. We're not going to rebound until we get into Wednesday. Like I said, just need everybody to be very, very careful on bridges and overpasses. Tanya and Jesse?
That's right. Up next, we're going to find out if mouthwash can help stop the spread of COVID-19.
And we are looking at mail-in voting. You're watching the KOAM Morning News right here on Fox 14.
Sells at-home coronavirus test kits on their website. The saliva PCR tests are administered by telemedicine platform Azova and cost $129.99 for a basic test kit. There's also an option for $139.99, which includes a video observation. The lesser price kit returns results in 24 to 72 hours after the lab receives the test. The more expensive kit returns results between 24 to 48 hours after the lab gets the test. Costco claims the PCR kits for polymerase chain reaction are the most accurate and sensitive test. Well, some of those who've gotten over COVID are still experiencing lingering symptoms months later. Researchers at Northwestern University are studying what they call COVID-19 long haulers. They're usually people who were previously healthy and were not hospitalized for COVID, but are having muscle pain, headaches, dizziness, and altered smell and taste. Officials in Crawford County approved changes allowing students who would normally have to quarantine to go back to school. KOAM's Zach Dodge has details.
Students and parents in Crawford County are going to see a pretty big change starting next week. Middle and high school students who are classified as low risk but have had close contact with a COVID-19 case in the classroom will no longer have to quarantine.
Really, the main benefit is we're not negatively impacting a person with quarantine, that we have little or no concerns that they're going to become positive for COVID-19.
County Health Officer Timothy Stebbins explains since school started 9 weeks ago, there's been 94 students who have tested positive for the virus. Through contact tracing, there's been more than 1,200 students who have had to quarantine because they were a close contact. But no students have tested positive as a result of classroom exposure.
Anytime you go to remote learning, it's still not the same as what it would be in the classroom. And so we know that the best environment is to be in that classroom.
Stebbins explains that all of the mitigation strategies will continue, such as wearing masks and hand washing, and that students will still be monitored. They will also continue to quarantine students who do extracurricular activities and are considered high risk. And parents will have the option of keeping their student home for the quarantine period if they want to, without it counting against them. But they're moving forward immediately with the goal of keeping as many kids in school as possible.
94 isolations or ill people in the schools, 1,200 plus quarantines, 0 transmission in the setting of the classroom. That's pretty good data.
We really hope that we're going to be able to keep students in our buildings more in a safe environment and not have to be out of the building when they're wanting to be there.
In Crawford County, Zach Dodge, KOAM News.
Policy change does not impact students in elementary schools because they have already been under a modified quarantine plan. A new study finds mouthwash may slow the spread of COVID-19. Researchers from Penn State College of Medicine found that mouthwash can inactivate human coronaviruses. Human volunteers were not used. Researchers instead grew the viruses in human liver cells in the lab. And after the cells were immersed in mouthwash, researchers found many cells inactivated greater than 99.9% of the virus after only 30 seconds of contact time. Although scientists warn the findings should not be overinterpreted, expressing the need for clinical trials involving humans.
Good news. We'll take any good news we can get about it.
That is good news.
I need
Hey, and you know what? Even though it's not proven to work yet or not in humans, there is no harm in using mouthwash on a daily basis.
Do your coworkers a favor. Use
Yes,
mouthwash.
please. Let's start
Do your
spreading
significant other
good breath.
Do your significant other a favor. Use mouthwash. All right, tell you what, we need some good news weather-wise because we're locked in a little bit of a mess here. We've got the rain that's now penetrated into the southern portion of the 4 states. Isolated lightning strike, not as much lightning as we had earlier. We're even getting snow on this Monday morning, but the key I want to point out is that band of purple right there, because that's going to be your freezing rain. And what we're seeing are slick spots develop on Highway 69 and I-49. So if you live up there or if you live down south and you're headed up to the north and taking either 69 or 49, please be very, very wary of bridges and overpasses. Slow down, get out the door early, and don't let this come as a surprise to you, because this is actually going to persist all through the morning and even afternoon hours. So once again, we are locked in with a winter storm advisory all the way until tomorrow morning. Freeman Hill System Sky Camera, where we're starting to just kind of drizzle over 37 degrees is where we stand. Extremely cold, below the freezing mark up in Yates Center. And then everywhere from the mid-30s, 41s as high as we've seen on this Monday morning. So bundle up, especially the kiddos right there. It's going to be a little shock to the system when they step out of the doors. Our temperatures are going to hang in the 30s with wind chills as low as 20 right now in Yates Center, 30 in Neosho. Feels like only 28 in Pittsburgh as the jet stream comes out of Canada, digs down into the deep southwest. We've got some Pacific moisture that then pops up and grabs that cold air. Look at all that snow. That's an abnormal amount of snow for this time of year, even even when we're talking about out by the Rockies. That's abnormal for them, and it just spread to the east toward us. So stuck in the mid-30s pretty much all day long. And as Future Track will show you, let's concentrate on the pink area right there. Yeah, that's your snow. For those of you that are going to be up in the northwest, it's going to stick with you. But this is the danger area, that freezing rain indicated in pink, because it's going to take us all the way through the afternoon and into Tuesday morning. Rain more so down to the south and to the east. And then finally, we can rebound on Wednesdays. But for the next 2 days, we need to be very, very careful with our travel. Be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this. About that time is coming up this weekend, the ghosts and goblins and things that go bump in the night. But then again, it's the year 2020. So trick-or-treating going to be a little unique this year. Michael George has the story.
In a town famous for witch trials and Halloween celebrations, the scariest thing in Salem, Massachusetts this year, the tourists. The mayor is telling sightseers to stay home.
This is not the year to come to Salem. This is not the year to visit.
But people are showing up anyway.
It's been crazy. Like, there's been just as many crowds as usual.
Halloween won't be so much about door-to-door trick-or-treating this year. Fantastic displays like this one can be enjoyed by people safely from a distance.
Here you go.
Thank you.
How do you dispense treats from a distance? In this Washington, D.C. neighborhood, one family came up with a solution.
It's called the COVID-safe candy slide. Jinx.
The slide made from PVC pipe,
Trick or treat!
while keeping socially distant. The Mayo Clinic urging Americans to avoid high-risk activities like costume parties, haunted houses, and especially trick-or-treating.
Unfortunately, having many people from different households mixing in close proximity is a high-risk activity.
Instead, recommending alternative, low-risk celebrations. In case you're wondering, the candy on this slide is disinfected first. Halloween isn't canceled, it's just different.
Everything that's been different had a purpose, but we can give them a little bit of normalcy. They deserve it.
Michael George, CBS News, New York.
Our question to you on the KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta poll is your Halloween plans for this Saturday. If you plan on going trick-or-treating, Miriam Campbell comes in, a little bit tongue-in-cheek, she says, but we can protest, right? Ned Stapleton says, setting the record straight, Trump has held more than a dozen super spreader rallies since being released from the hospital. According to CNN, 5 of those exact locations have seen their COVID cases nearly double. All have seen a larger uptick in the surrounding area immediately following. Sean Rose says, the first thing the nurse told me when I was leaving the hospital with my daughter was to avoid large groups of people. I went and took her to the Barton County Fair. Pretty sure she'll be all right. Also, too, you can participate in our KOAM News Now Insta poll. Right now, we've got 54% of you saying yes, you plan on participating in Trick or Treat on this Halloween season. It's gone back and forth all morning long. And so please feel free to chime in. Let us know what you're doing. KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. That's KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. Be back right after this.
Ray Alanas is a children's consignment organization holding events year-round. Saturday concluded one of the consignment events, but with a new twist, allowing local foster families to shop through donated unsold items from consigners. KOAM's Caitlin Scheif has more.
Carissa Kiger took on 3 foster kids in addition to her own child, growing her family in order to keep these siblings together.
I'm a foster parent because my sister's kids got put into DFS custody, and I wanted to be able to stay a part of their lives, so I became a foster parent so I could have them.
Being a foster parent can get pretty expensive, and with cold weather creeping in, she's sifting through racks at the Ria Lana's Children Consignment event to get all her kids winter ready.
It's very beneficial, especially when you got kids in school and you got 4 kids, it definitely helps out in the pocketbook.
Officials running the event on its last day did something new this year. Consigners donated their unsold items to local foster families to shop through, free of charge.
I was a foster child myself, and I don't remember anything like this as a kid.
We had a little over 500 consigners, and 30% of them donated their unsold items. So I think we estimated we had about 9,000 donated items for the foster families to choose from.
The change came after seeing a need in the community, realizing the pandemic was making it harder on many local families.
Some of these foster families have been laid off or furloughed, so their income has been impacted significantly. So if it weren't for this, they would be very limited and have to rely on organizations that are really tapped out right now.
Any items left over will go to local organizations.
It tugs at your heartstrings, and it makes all of the work that we've done for the past 2 weeks worth it, because we see how this is impacting our community.
It will show that our community actually cares for them and opens doors for other opportunities.
In Joplin, Caitlin Shive, KOAM News.
Sherry is hoping to continue with the foster donations each year. It's time to honor today's four-state hero. James Intrican is a corporal in the United States Marines. He served in Iraq and Afghanistan from 2008 to 2010, where he earned the National Defense Medal, the Sea Service Medal, and the Global War on Terrorism Medal. A native of Rich Hill, Missouri, we salute you, James Intrican, our four-state hero. Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. It's currently 7:30. Let's take a look at today's top stories. Authorities find two missing girls who were abducted from a Kansas home where two boys were discovered dead. Kansas Amber Alert System said the girls ages 3 and 7 were found by the Oklahoma Highway Patrol near Eric, Oklahoma around 7 Saturday evening. An Amber Alert said the suspect in the abduction is the girls' father, 40-year-old Donnie Jackson. Police say the boys were 11 and 14 and were the girls' siblings. No motive for the murders or abduction is clear at this time, but Jackson is in custody. An officer-involved shooting leaves a suspect dead in Montgomery County, Kansas. According to authorities, a victim called 911 after being robbed at gunpoint at the Regal Inn in Coffeyville around 1 p.m. About 15 minutes later in Independence, a trooper spotted a minivan that matched the vehicle connected to the robbery. As the troopers attempted a traffic stop, the vehicle's passenger, 32-year-old Wesley Jordan of Hot Springs, Arkansas, fired at the troopers. The trooper shot back and a police pursuit ensued. After a short chase, the suspect stopped and Jordan was shot by a trooper after exiting the van. Jordan died at the scene. No law enforcement officers were injured during this incident. The 26-year-old driver was arrested and is facing armed robbery charges. Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt says he will not appeal a court ruling that the state's tribal gaming compact automatically renewed on January 1st. Compacts define how much gambling revenue tribes must pay to the state and which games. The governor argued they expired. However, a U.S. District Court judge ruled in July against him. Governor Stitt says he will not appeal that decision because the state faces, quote, unprecedented uncertainty as a result of the U.S. Supreme Court ruling. A large swath of eastern Oklahoma remains an Indian reservation. A powerful typhoon lashes the southern Philippines with damaging force. Typhoon Malav whipped through the southern part of the Luzon Island, the Philippines' most populated island, and home to Manila, unleashing sustained winds of 77 miles an hour and gusts topping 90 miles an hour. Punishing rain is already leading to some flooding. Thousands of people have been told to evacuate. There are no immediate reports of casualties, but 12 fishermen at sea failed to return to shore.
Tanya, as a matter of fact, we actually have a hurricane warning down for the Gulf Coast. Tropical storm Zeta originating in the Gulf of Mexico there, but we've got our own concerns here at home to talk about before we involve anything tropical. That's because we've got everything from heavy rain, starting to pick up some lightning there in southwest Missouri, snow on the backside of it up in the northwest, but more importantly, this band of purple that indicates the freezing rain right there. So 3 places I want everybody to be wary about. Number 1, right here along Highway 400. We haven't picked up any storm reports on 400, but we have had reports along Highway 69 and I-49 about slick spots on bridges. And then remember, this band of rain, as it goes from southwest up to the northeast, this is not going to be short-lived. This is going to persist into the afternoon hours, and our temperatures are not going to really improve, which is why we've got a winter weather advisory that stretches all the way to Tuesday. Freeman Health System sky camera where we have a light mist coming down, 37 degrees, but only feeling like 30 as temperatures hovering right around the freezing mark. The highest we've seen is 41, and even Miami and Anderson have lost that. They've now slipped down to 39, so bundle them up as they head out the door. It's going to just be cold, rainy, and kind of blah all day long. Wind chills as low as 19 right now in Yates Center. 27 is what it feels like in Pittsburgh, 29 in Mount Vernon. And while we hang in the mid-30s all day, it's just going to be one of those that you need to get out the door, give yourself plenty of extra time, because once again, the pink, let's concentrate on that. It's the equivocation of the purple that we pick up on the Skywatch Storm Tracker. As it moves, it's just going to continue to ride that same line. Rain more so down to the south. The snow will persist up into the northwest, and we're not going to rebound temperature-wise until we get to Wednesday. Everybody be safe out there, and we'll have more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this. Halloween coming up on Saturday, and it's the subject of this morning's KOAM News Now, something to talk about, and our morning Insta poll asking if you're participating in trick-or-treating on Halloween night. Michael Talley says, little LOL, this is a joke. Government doesn't benefit from Halloween events, therefore they deem it unsafe. But hey, go to your local Walmart, spend money, and pay sales tax. Mike Garrett says, since contracting the virus, I look at events differently. Not so much for me, but for those around me, it's called being considerate. Mike says, party hardy for Halloween and wash your hands. Also on the KOAM News Now Insta poll this morning, same question that we're posing on Facebook right now. I tell you what, this has been jockeying back and forth all morning long. The yeses say we are participating with 55% of the vote. You can still take part. Go to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. Now, there's plenty of ways to vote in the upcoming 2020 election on November 3rd. One method being utilized more than ever is mail-in voting. Now, with less than 10 days until the election left, our own Jesse Irwin breaks down how to vote by mail in 2 of our 4 states.
Well, there's this thing you've probably heard of. It's called mail-in voting. But how does it work? Let me walk you through it because it's still possible in some places. Let's go through the 4 states. Let's begin in Kansas. The Sunflower State requires you to apply for a mail-in ballot 7 days before the election, or in this case, October 27th. Kansas residents will need a current Kansas driver's license, a driver's license from another state, a U.S. passport, conceal and carry license, employee ID badge, or any other form of identification to receive a ballot. They can print out a ballot application at the Kansas Secretary of State's website. Residents can then mail in their ballots or turn them in at a local election office. If Kansans choose to mail in their ballot, they can track it at this URL right here. Now, if the ballot has reached its destination and the website shows a green check mark, then it's been counted. The ballots can be mailed up to 3 days after the election as long as they've been postmarked by Election Day. If a Kansas resident applied for a mail-in ballot but never got one, they can request up to 2 more by October 27th. And if someone decides that they now want to vote in person, then they can still choose to do so as long as they haven't cast their mail-in ballot vote yet. Folks in Oklahoma have until October 27th to request a mail-in ballot. To do so, they simply have to go to the State Election Board website, although they must have a form of identification to request the ballot. The mail-in ballots must be received by the County Election Board by 7 p.m. on Election Day in order to count. Now, residents can choose to turn in their mail-in ballots in person at the County Election Board, or they can mail them in. Now, if a mail-in ballot gets lost in the mail, residents can request a second one with a form filled out at the county level. Oklahomans can track their votes at this link right here. If a resident decides they'd rather vote in person, then they can still do so as long as they haven't already cast their mail-in ballot vote. In the state of Oklahoma, you want to make sure your ballot is notarized, so know where your local notary is and plan ahead. If you have any other questions or you need to clarify something, don't worry, we got you. Just head to our website, KOAMnewsnow.com, and we'll see you on Election Day.
Now, Jesse's going to break down everything you need to know about mail-in ballots from Missouri and Arkansas in about 10 minutes. Be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this.
A rising number of retailers and malls are closing around the country. The retail industry has been struggling and the pandemic continues to cripple their bottom line. Nichelle Medina reports from Los Angeles and shows how developers and malls are looking to change the way they do business.
A popular tourist attraction in the heart of Hollywood is about to be transformed. The famed Hollywood and Highland Mall will undergo a $100 million makeover.
Even before COVID hit, we still had these plans of this $100 million renovation. And I think for us that we've seen that this is probably more important today than it even was a year ago.
Shopping malls nationwide were struggling and closing even before the pandemic. Now, a rising number are being pushed to the brink.
Last year, a record 9,800 stores shut down. This year, Coreside Research predicts that number to more than double to 25,000, and nearly 60% will be in a mall.
Not only have we seen extinction at an unprecedented pace, but I do unfortunately believe that it will continue.
Deborah Weinswig of Coreside Research says high-end malls will likely survive because luxury retail tenants have higher profit margins. Malls with lower price stores and more vacancies face the highest risk of closure.
They may survive as something else, but they won't be a traditional mall.
It's our belief that with change comes opportunity.
Developers of the Hollywood and Highland project are redesigning the 5-story complex and renaming it Ovation. There will be less retail and more entertainment and events. About a third of the complex will be transformed into offices on the upper floors. Another third will be dedicated to dining.
We have kind of this outside dining al fresco area.
It's hoped that after the pandemic, the open and inviting model will attract locals, tourists, and millennials.
It's really on us as a developer and as an owner to set that stage for brands to figure out creative, innovative ways to showcase what they do.
Reimagining retail, an idea malls hope consumers will buy into. Nichelle Medina, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Well, toy sales continue to surge as parents try to get their kids off the electronics this holiday season. Mattel's business was up 10% in the summer quarter, and Barbie sales were up 29%, the biggest increase in at least 2 decades. Sales of toy cars and trucks were up 6%, led by, of course, Hot Wheels. Mattel also saw strong sales of building sets, games, and the Baby Yoda plush doll, because why not? Target set up a new reservation system to curb big crowds outside of their stores. You can head to target.com/line, find your local store, and see if there's a long wait. And Target stores are still limiting in-store capacity, so if lines develop, you can go to reserve your spot online to avoid close crowding, and Target will text you when it's your turn to shop. Customers can also check out and pay using the Target app, and the company also announced more My Checkout devices, which allow you to finish shopping anywhere in the store. There will also be more drive-up spots allowing for online shopping and curbside pickup. Well, Google's new tools aim to get you the best holiday deals. The tech giant is introducing new ways to compare prices on its retail platform. The new tool lets you know if prices for an item are high, low, or typical compared to other prices across the web and in nearby stores. Specific items can also be tracked, so you would receive an email alert or notification from Google's search app whenever the prices drop. Customers can also get info on which retailers offer curbside and in-store pickup options. That's convenient. Coca-Cola plans to get rid of nearly 200 brands. The New York Post says that it's about half of its beverages. The company wants to focus on its top sellers. It recently revealed that Tab will go away at the end of the year after a 57-year run. Huh. I didn't know Tab had been around that long, but, well, eliminating the labels will allow Coke to invest in more popular drinks, including Minute Maid. It's pretty amazing. Wow. Well, we're entering the last week of October, and that means we're wrapping up Croctober this week. It is not too late to get your recipe in. Well, I'm sorry, it is too late to get your recipe in, but you can still play a hand in deciding what we make on the show come Wednesday. So right now, on the KOAM News Now Instapoll, we've got 4 slow cooker recipes up for a vote. You can see them right now on your screen. You see that right there? Yeah, look at that. Super nacho dip, it's crushing it. We've also got creamy chicken club, caramel apples, and I mean, I'm a Sloppy Joe guy, but you vote for what you think. Oh my goodness, as I say that, super nacho dip, come on, Sloppy Joes, everybody. KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. Do it fast. We'll announce the winner at noon. Let's go, Sloppy Joes! Come on, please, something. I don't know. We'll keep you posted. We'll be right back.
More than ever is mail-in voting. Earlier, our own Jesse Irwin, who we just saw, a little sneak peek behind the curtain. He broke down how you can vote by mail in 2 of the 4 states. Now, with less than 10 days until the election, here's what you need to know for the other 2 states.
Well, there's this thing you've probably heard of. It's called mail-in voting. But how does it work? Well, let me walk you through it because it's still possible in some places. Missouri residents have until 5 p.m. on the second Wednesday before the election to apply for a mail-in ballot, or, unfortunately, October 21st. Now, unlike Kansas, mail-in ballots will not be counted if they're turned into an election office in person. If they bring in a mail-in ballot to the polls, election officials will take the ballot and let the Missourian vote in person instead. Ballots will not be counted past 7 p.m. on Election Day, regardless of whether they're a mail-in ballot or not. So if you plan to vote by mail, make sure you're making that plan and you send out your ballot as early as possible. Missouri doesn't have do-it-yourself tracking like Kansas, so residents can track their vote through the USPS, or they can call their local election authority a week after they've cast their ballot to see if it's been received. If a resident decides that they'd rather vote in person, they can still choose to do so as long as they haven't already cast their mail-in ballot. The state of Missouri requires that you get your mail-in ballot notarized, so know where your local notary is and make sure you plan for that. In Arkansas, residents have until October 27th to request a mail-in ballot. Ballots can be requested at the Arkansas Secretary of State website, this link right here. Now, mail-in ballots must be submitted 7 days before the election for processing. If someone doesn't mail in their ballot by that time, don't stress. A ballot can be turned in person 1 day before the election, that Monday, at the local county clerk's office. Now, ballots can be tracked through the USPS. If a resident decides they'd rather vote in person, then they can still choose to do so as long as they haven't already cast their mail-in ballot vote. Now, if you have more questions or you need to clarify something, we're going to have all this on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com for all 4 states. And if you haven't gotten set up to vote yet, make sure you do so.
If you missed any of Jesse's segments in either of our 4 states, you can always find that complete story on KOAMnewsnow.com. Well done, my friend. I appreciate the work you put into that. That was very well done. Dreary day in the 4 states, the combination of every type of precipitation you can imagine in October, as we've got rain that is now spread throughout the entire portion of southwest Missouri with lightning. We've got snow as much as 3/10 of an inch already falling up to the northwest. The key band and the key color, that is the purple right there, because that indicates freezing rain. Need everybody to be very careful on Highway 69 and I-49. That's where we've already developed some slick spots. Also, too, while the freezing rain has been constant there along Highway 400, just be safe. Haven't picked up any storm reports off of 400. But once again, let's go better safe than sorry, because everything's moving from southwest to northeast. And so that gives you an indicator that everything down here is going to continue to push up throughout the course of the morning all the way into the afternoon, leading us to a winter weather advisory that lasts until Tuesday morning. A look from the Freeman Health System sky camera in Joplin. 37 degrees with a wind chill of only 30 right now. We've seen temperatures as low as 30 degrees up to the northwest, and we had some 41s. Nah, not even close anymore. 37s as high as we get in Carthage, Anderson, and Miami. So just make sure that they're bundled up as they head out the door, and also too, tell them to make sure that they got that coat when you go to pick them up, or if they got to get on the bus or walk home, because our wind chills are going to stay in the 20s and 30s all afternoon long, as we see the jet stream just grabbing that cold Canadian air, dropping it down, picking up some moisture, and then whoosh, right through the 4 states. And so this will be our daily look at temperatures right there, decreasing throughout the course of our Monday and then stabilizing. But look at that freezing mark overnight. And that's why that winter weather advisory lasts all the way to Tuesday, because it's very consistent with our precipitation. It's not going to go anywhere. It's going to be wet, if not freezing cold. When we look at the 7-day forecast, we finally get a break by the time we get into Wednesday temperature-wise, but the precipitation sticks around. The nice thing is we can just turn it straight into rain. As far as Halloween, hey, that's looking nice. Let's just get through the next 2 days safe, especially out on the road. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Here's what's happening today. Amy Coney Barrett's confirmation as the Supreme Court Justice is expected today after Senate Republicans voted overwhelmingly on Sunday to advance President Trump's nominee. Democrats oppose the president installing a new justice to replace the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg before the November 3rd election. With a little over a week to go until the election, President Trump and Democratic challenger Joe Biden are focusing on efforts on key states that could decide the outcome. While the country deals with a new surge of coronavirus cases, Vice President Mike Pence's chief of staff and several aides have also tested positive for the coronavirus. The vice president, who heads the White House Coronavirus Task Force, tested negative. Check in with Michael with a final look at your forecast.
Here's the mess that we have on our hands. Everything from the rain that's spread into southwest Missouri to the freezing rain. That's really what we need to concern ourselves with, is that band of purple right there, all the way into the snow that we see up in the northwest. We've got reports as much as 3/10 of an inch that have already fallen in Chautauqua County. And once again, this is going to persist all the way through the afternoon hours. That's why the winter weather advisory doesn't expire until tomorrow morning.
All right, we're entering the last week of October, and that means we are wrapping Croctober up this week. It's too late to send in a recipe, but you can still play a hand in deciding what we make on the show come Wednesday. All right, so right now on the KOAM News Now Instapoll, we have 4 slow cooker recipes up for a vote. You can see them right there: Sloppy Joe's, with 16% of the vote. Super Nacho Dip with 46. Wow, that's winning. Creamy Chicken Chili, 40% of the vote. And Caramel Apples, man, Caramel Apples not getting anything right now.
Voted yet.
Joe's. Get
All right,
up
you can
there.
choose the dish you want by visiting KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. Do it fast. We're going to announce that winner at noon today.
Speaking of noon,
Gotta get it. What?
we'll bring you the latest as far as our accumulation numbers. Just remember, get an extra head start, not only today, but tomorrow as well. I want everybody to be super safe out there. I always get a little bit nervous there on our first bout of the year when it comes to that wintry weather.
Well, thank you so much for letting us put the good in your morning. Vote for
More,
Sloppy Joe's.
more news and weather when we see you at noon.
Have a great morning and an even better day.